Hello everyone, hope you all are doing great. And today in this video we are going to be talking about a drag gesture. So we're gonna take a close look at drag gesture in SwiftUI, and we're gonna learn various different aspects of it. I have got these 8 examples that we're gonna create. And learn about drag gesture. So let's go ahead and take a look what we're going to be building. So we're going to be starting out with integration of a simple drag gesture recognizer inside our views. So basically you can enable your view to be dragged anywhere in the screen. So you're going to start out with this simple example, how to attach a drag gesture into your view, and from there on we're gonna build upon these. So next is gonna be basically the states of a drag gesture. So if you notice this circle is green, we're gonna use this to indicate whether the drag is being performed, the gesture is being performed or not. So if you notice, right now I'm moving, and the circle turns red, and as soon as I let the view go, it becomes green again. So you're gonna basically learn how to observe the dragging state and the end state for the drag gesture. Um, Example after that is going to be where you're going to try to find the sort of collision state, or like overlapping state. So if I move this view anywhere inside the bounds of the phone, I'm actually okay. So if I move this view a little bit outside, then the phone the outlines turn red, and our view itself turns into a just the border or the outline. Okay, as soon as I drag it inside, it goes away. So this can indicate, like, basically you can use it for a scenario where you are containing your gesture uh, inside a box, and you don't want users to go outside the bound of the box, so you can actually detect that. So you can actually learn how to basically use simple techniques in drag gesture itself to build this functionality. Okay, all right, so that's going to be the example number 3. Next example is going to be this slide out menu. So I haven't actually put anything in the slide out menu. I just want to show you, like, the functionality where you can drag your menu, and to open it, and drag it to close it. With this example, you're gonna learn how to restrict your drag location. So if I'm trying to move up and down, but as you can see, our view is not moving up and down, it's only moving horizontally. So you can restrict that, like the gesture direction, using drag gesture, and we're gonna see how we can do that by building this simple menu, a drag menu. Okay, example after that is going to be basically the minimum distance. So there is a property in drag gestures called minimum distance, which states that your drag should not start until certain minimum distance has reached. So for example, I have started dragging, and you can see my view is not moving yet, and I'm gonna do a little bit more, and there we go. So now it's actually moving. So that is the idea that we are going after, is, like, it has moved certain distance at minimum before we start the drag state. This is something that is actually used very often, so you avoid the cases where user is actually swiping on the screen and stuff like that. So we're gonna see, like, how we can achieve that using drag gesture recognizer. Then we're gonna build upon this, and we're gonna build this center locator. So I have this arrow at the center, and I'm gonna drag it out, but this arrow is always gonna point at the origin, if you notice, and as soon as I let it go, it actually would come back. And if you notice how it is just always pointing at the origin where it's gonna go back when you let it go. So we're gonna build this out. Like, we're gonna build on the top of the minimum distance example. Then we're gonna take some practical examples. So we're gonna build out our range slider. In this example, what we're gonna do is we're gonna build this slider, two-sided range slider, which is gonna be used to define the range of certain things. So for example, you can have a control that actually lets user choose that they only want range between 31 and 71, like, so you can actually move these. And if you notice this range slider, the end range does not go beyond the start range. So you're gonna build this custom control using drag gesture recognizer. Okay, and then last but not the least, you can actually replicate the brightness slider that you have in your control center. Sorry. Okay. The brightness slider that you have in your control center in your phone, and how you can actually adjust the brightness. And if you notice, our brightness state is changing depending upon where you are actually how much brightness you want. And this is the full brightness, and if you scroll it down, it's actually low. Okay, so we're gonna build this example, and this is again we're gonna be doing it using drag gesture recognizer. Okay, so yeah, so there's a lot of things that we're gonna cover, and hopefully this video is gonna give you basically an idea how much customizable drag gesture is, and what all you can do with drag gesture in SwiftUI. So let's go ahead and hop on to the next section, and we are going to get started. Alright, so I have an empty project created and open. So let's go ahead and dive in into the drag gesture. So as you know, drag gesture is something that is used to drag things around, and you can attach your drag gesture into any view inside your SwiftUI. So basically any view can be the candidate of a drag gesture. So for the first example, we will see how to drag a view from one point to another, and then we can basically track its state. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a struct here, example 1. I'm going to call this one. This one is going to be inheriting or conforming to view protocol, and we're going to have body. All right, and now for this example, we are going to actually be needing to track state. So we're going to say add state private var, and we want to know the rectangle's position. So we're going to have a rectangle, so we want to know its position. So we're going to create rect position, and this is going to be of type CG point. Okay, and we're going to give it a XY location of 100 and 100. All right, and now we're going to create a rounded rectangle with corner radius of about 20 points. Going to fill this with color dot blue, and going to give it a frame with width and height. So 100 width and 100 height is good. We're gonna give it a position. So this is basically gonna be the modifier that's gonna determine where the box is located. So we don't want to hard code this one. This value is gonna be rect position. Okay, now by creating this position, you're stating that the rectangle will be located at this location on the screen. Now whenever drag happens on the view itself, the drag gesture happens and the location moves, you want to update that. So the way you can actually do that is by attaching a gesture to your view, and you are simply going to say drag gesture. Okay, and you're gonna attach on change. So whenever the drag gesture value is gonna change, you're gonna receive that inside the value closure, inside this closure right here. Okay, and the value is gonna basically tell you how much um, the item or the view has moved or translated, or the location of that. So you're gonna say self dot rect position is equal to the value that you have received, so this value right here. And you're gonna as you can see, you can get like a lot of things from this. You can get location, you can get a predicted location. So this is a prediction based on the current drag velocity. So where the view is gonna end, the system actually predicts that, and it gives you a value. So if you want to provide a snap behavior, basically when your user is dragging, and you want to provide like sort of a snap behavior and a shadow um, view at the predicted location, you can do that to show where user is headed. Or you can actually use location to show, to get the actual location where user has dragged. Start location is basically where the user started from dragging, like and predicted end translation is basically the translation value where it's actually predicting it's going to end. Time and translation are other things. So total translation between drag states is something that is calculated as well. So you can actually use this, and we're going to use translation in future examples. Okay, so currently we need location, so let's go ahead and take location, and that's about it. That's how easy it is to basically attach a drag gesture into your view. So let me go ahead and actually call the example one here, and I'm gonna load the preview. So to load the preview is option command P, which actually loads the canvas and the preview if your canvas is open. Okay, so let me wait for it to load, and then we'll see what we got. All right, so we have our view showing up here, as you can see. So what we can do with this, so let's go ahead and interact with this. So let me first scroll down. Okay, yeah, to make it fit the screen. And now I'm gonna start the live debugging or live preview, and then we're gonna drag it. And as you can see, the drag location, the box's location is changing according to the translation or the drag where it's actually happening, right? So that is your drag gesture. All right, now this is like, this is very simple to implement, but there's a lot of power into it. So we're gonna, example by example, you're gonna start exploring like, what all you can do. So let's go ahead and check out the next example where we can actually learn about how to detect the state of dragging and end. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the example 2, which is actually going to track whenever the rectangle is dragging. Okay, so I'm going to create that right above this. I'm going to say example 2 view. Okay, all right, so this one we're gonna need some state properties, and there's going to be a new type of state property. So and this one is called gesture state. Okay, so we call it gesture state. Now gesture state is another property wrapper basically, and this property basically updates uh, when user is performing the drag itself, the gesture itself. So it's applied to all the gestures, not only just for the drag gesture, but you can actually use this to indicate that is moving or not. So that's what we're going to create. The state is moving or not. Now, gesture state is a read-only value. The way you actually modify this is inside the gesture on ended. So we're going to see how we can do that. Okay, but you cannot directly modify this. So I'm going to create private var is moving. Okay, and initially I'm going to set this value to false. Now, gesture state is always going to return back to the value that you have assigned to it. So when you have created this as moving and assigned false to it, whenever the user stops dragging, at that time the value is going to become false. Gesture state is going to become false. So gesture state only tracks the value when it's gesture states only tracks the state when it's happening, or like this is something that's used when the drag is being performed, but not the end state. End state is defined right here, and this is where it's gonna snap back to. Okay, then you're gonna have a state private var, and rect position is basically gonna be cd point, and we're gonna have xy value. So we're gonna have 100 for the x and y, and let's create the body for this. And now for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to have a v stack, and inside that v stack we're going to have an h stack with spacer, actually 2 spacers, and we're going to put a circle in the middle, circle. Okay, and let's give this circle a fill. Now this fill is going to be conditional, basically depending upon what our value for is moving is. So if is moving is true, then we're going to show color dot, or fill this with color dot red. Otherwise we're going to fill this with color dot green. All right, and we also going to give this a frame. All right, the frame is for the width is going to be 50, and height is going to be 50. Alignment is going to be center. That's by default, so you don't have to specify that. And yeah, so that's our state indicator, basically indicating whether our gesture is being applied or not. Okay, now below that it's going to be a rounded rectangle with corner radius of about 20 points. Once again, fill is going to be color dot blue, and then you're going to have a frame with width, height, and alignment default. The position is, once again, we're going to use rect position for the position for the rectangle. All right, and we're going to attach a gesture to this. Okay, this, once again, we're going to use drag gesture, and now what we are looking for is 2 states. So if you look at the last example we looked at on change, we do want to have on change because we want to change the location of our view. So we're going to simply say self dot rect position is equal to value dot location. Okay, so that is going to give us the new location. Now let me put this on the next line. Okay, and let me control A and command A and control I to format. Okay, and what next we need is basically an updating state. An updating state is where gesture state is updated. So once again, gesture state is read only. So we cannot directly update it, but we can indirectly update it inside the updating block. So this updating block takes the state, the gesture state. So we're gonna say in our case gesture state is moving. The values that it actually gives you in the closure are value, state, and transaction. Okay, now this state type is exactly the same type as your gesture state. So if you had an integer or cd float or any other type here, then this state would change to that type. In this case, the state is actually going to be of Boolean type. It's not showing here, but it's actually Boolean type. So let me show you. There we go. So, and as you can see, it's an in-out Boolean. Okay, so this state, whenever you modify it, it's actually gonna update your gesture state. So what we're gonna say is whenever the drag is moving, basically the state is updating, we want to indicate that by capturing it inside uh, is moving, and indirectly you can update it via state variable. Okay, and with that our example is done. So let me call example 2 now, and I'm gonna press Option Command P to resume our preview, and we should have there we go. We have our indicator circle right here and our rectangle right here. So if I start moving this guy, as you can see, I'm actually dragging, and at this point the state is green, and as soon as I let it go, it's actually turned sorry, when I'm moving, the circle is red, and as soon as I let it go, it's actually green. Okay, so you can use that this property, and like, you know, you can basically implement it in scenarios where you're allowing your user to do drag and drop, but you want to hide the rest of the UI elements, or you want to clean user's screen, and when the gesture states ended or drag ended, then you want to bring back your UI elements, so user doesn't end up, like, you know, doing something that you don't want to. Like, so that's one example that you can actually use it with. But yeah, you can come up with more creative examples than me, for sure. So okay, so this is, like, you know, the gesture state that we talked about in association with drag gesture. Okay, now next one, we're gonna build upon this knowledge, and we're gonna build out the overlapping. So we want to see, like, you know, how overlapping happens, and we're gonna build that boundary, the boundary example. So whenever you move your view towards the boundary, it actually indicates that it's out of the bound, and your frame of the screen or this device is gonna turn red to indicate that there is a collision at the boundary and the view. Okay, so that's the example that we're gonna build, and we're gonna learn about some cool things about drag gesture. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and hop into example 3, where we're gonna be building the collision state. So struct. All right, this struct is going to be called example 3. Okay, now once again, we are going to need some state variables. So we're going to say state private var, and one is definitely rect position. And this is going to be 100 points, and then you're going to have a state for overlapping. So you want to say if the view is overlapping to the side of the screen or the bounds of the screen, then we want to actually capture that. So we're going to say overlapping, and initially we want to set it to false. All right, now this time we are not creating a gesture state, because remember, gesture state is for has a end value. It has a default value where it actually snaps back to. So that value never changes. It's a default value that's always true. It's only updated when you're performing the gesture, for example, drag gesture. Then only you can update the gesture state. But eventually, when your gesture ends, your view goes back to the initial value of gesture state. Okay, so we don't want that. If user has moved the view and left it on the side of the screen, we don't want to snap our overlapping state back. We want to keep it there to indicate that, hey, there is a conflict here. Okay, so in order to indicate that, we're going to create a regular state. All right. So hope that is clear. Now we're going to create our body element and body property, and we're going to have a Z stack. All right, inside this Z stack, we're going to have a rounded rectangle. Now, this rounded rectangle is going to have corner radius of 50. Okay, and we're gonna have a stroke around this, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna check the overlapping state. Okay, so we're gonna say it's overlapping, and we're gonna give it a color red if it is, otherwise color dot clear. Okay, and we also wanna have style, so stroke style, and for the stroke style we're gonna say line width is going to be, if overlapping, then 40, otherwise 0. Okay, and we're gonna say edges ignoring safe area. We're gonna just set it to all, so we're gonna ignore all the safe area edges. Okay, now on the top of this there's going to be another rectangle, a rounded rectangle that's going to be sitting with a corner radius of 20 points. We're gonna create a stroke border with content, so we're gonna say color dot orange. Okay, and style is gonna be the stroke style, and line width is going to be, if the overlapping, then 2, otherwise 0. So what we are doing here is we are saying that show the border stroke, so basically show the border of the rectangle when the overlapping state is true, or otherwise don't show it. Okay, so this is what we're going to do to indicate, to basically just show the border of the view when it's actually in a collision state. Okay, so for the background we're gonna say um, overlapping. If it is overlapping, then we want to go to color dot clear, otherwise we want to have color dot orange. So this is going to be the fill for the rounded rectangle. We're going to clip shape. Okay, and we're going to clip shape rounded rectangle with corner radius of 20, because we are setting that that background on the top. Okay, and then we're gonna have a frame with width 100 and height 100. All right, then we're gonna define the position. Position once again is gonna be the rectangle's position, and gonna attach a gesture to this. Now this gesture is gonna be a drag gesture, so drag gesture. Okay, now drag gesture we're gonna capture on change state. Okay, and we're gonna get the value, so we're gonna simply update our rectangle's position with this. All right, and that's about it for the on change. And on ended is a new state that we haven't seen yet, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. Now on ended gives us the end value, the last location of the view. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this, and what we're going to say is that if the value dot location dot x is less than UI screen, so because I'm actually checking against the bounds of the screen, that's why I'm going to go with UI screen dot main dot bounds dot min x plus 50 to give it a padding. Okay, or value dot location dot x is greater than UI screen dot min dot bounds dot max x minus 50. Okay, 50 because our frames, our rectangles width is 100, so I want to actually subtract at least 50% of that, so that's 50. Let me see if I can actually, that's perfect. All right, second is, okay, let me do this. All right, there are two more conditions. So basically we have covered if view goes here or here. Now we're gonna cover if view goes here or here. So that is gonna be location dot y. Okay, location dot y is less than screen dot min y, okay, plus 50, or value dot location dot y is greater than y screen dot main dot bounds dot max y minus 50. Okay, all right. So in these cases, if your view, your views, dragged views location is anywhere on these bounds, right? In those cases, we wanna turn overlapping to true. Okay. Otherwise, we wanna simply turn this to false, or like keep it false. Okay. All right, with that, we have our example 3 ready. Okay, so let's go ahead and resume the preview, and what you're gonna see is, let me collapse this guy right here, we're not gonna need it. Okay, what you're gonna see is basically your view, and you can drag it around, and as you can see, there is no um, violation or no collision that's happening, and there you go. You can see, like, how your collision has just happened in this location. And if you keep moving your view around the corners, then that collision state is gonna stay. But if you move inside, then you're not gonna have that collision state. Okay, so once again, collision state and non-collision state. Okay, so that's how you can actually detect if the user's view is being dragged somewhere within the bounds of the container view. Okay, so that's what you can use. You can use on-ended for that purpose. All right. So far you have learned about the gesture and drag gesture and gesture state. Okay, so what we're gonna do next is, in this video, we are going to be um, building out a drag gesture menu. Okay, so basically it's gonna be a menu that you can drag out like a tray, and you can drag it, like, close, um, and you're gonna also learn how to restrict the direction of the drag. So drag direction is something that you can restrict, and you're gonna see how you can do that, and that is also very simple. So let's create a struct for example 4, and all right, so what we're going to do is, we are first of all going to create a state. Okay, this state is going to be private variable for slider position. This slider, that's going to be our menu, and initial position, we're going to give it a CG float. Of type CG float is going to be, and initial position is going to be 50 minus UI screen dot main dot bounds dot width. Okay, and we're going to have a gesture state, and this one is going to be the offset. Okay, and initially the value for the offset is going to be CG size dot 0. And let's create our body. Okay, now we're going to use geometry reader in this case, so let's go ahead and get the access to geometry proxy using geometry reader. So geo proxy n. Okay, And inside this, we're gonna create our VStack with a spacer and an H stack, okay, with a spacer like that. And we're gonna have an image, so we're gonna actually create this indicator, like the drag indicator thing. So we're gonna say line dot horizontal dot 3, okay. um, and this is basically we're gonna rotate this by 90-degree. Okay, so it's basically gonna be 3 lines rotating 90 degrees. So you're gonna see, like, in a minute how it looks like. So let me actually do that right now. Example 4. Okay, all right. Okay, so that's good. Like, let's give it a foreground color so we can see something. And frame height 100, padding, background is gonna be a Z stack with rectangle. Fill is gonna be color dot orange, and offset is gonna be -100. Okay, and then on the top of that, we're gonna have a capsule with fill color dot orange. Okay, yeah, this is gonna be the X. All right, I'll let the Xcode catch up a bit. There you go. All right, awesome. So as you can see, you have your view. Let me move it at the top. So wherever my so let's see, yeah. So this is where my VStack is ending. So I'm gonna put a spacer at the bottom so I can move the menu in the middle. Yeah, there we go. So these 3 lines is basically just to indicate the user that they can drag the menu out. Okay, and this rectangle, the reason I have actually added this rectangle, if you take it out, this is how our menu looks. So when it's dragged out, it's gonna have this space, this, like, background visible, right? And I don't want that. Like, I want to have that filled. So what I've done is, like, I've created a rectangle with offset -100, and that's actually going to provide this fill for the background. So both of these rectangle and capsules color are orange. So it's basically gonna look as a single component. All right. Now, with the background set, we're gonna basically set the offset, and this is where we're gonna restrict um, our drag to be only in the X direction by saying that only move slider position in the drag in the X direction. So we're gonna say slider position, whatever it is, add the offset, that we have property that we have created, dot width. Okay, and keep padding of 10 points from that. So as you can see, our view has been dragged out of the screen, and if you want to have, like, a little bit more sort of like hidden, then you can increase this value, or you can actually remove this, and it's gonna look like this. Okay, all right. Now let's add our gesture. So once again, we're gonna have our drag gesture, and we're gonna have on. So let's see, updating. Sorry, not on, updating. And we're gonna say that we want to keep track of the offset, right? The gesture state offset. Now the way we're gonna use it is we're gonna store the value that we have been getting inside the offset. So sorry, this one is gonna be, yeah, this one is the gesture state. Okay, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna say value state and transaction. Okay, so this state is what we're gonna update to basically indicate the offset being updated. So I'm gonna say state is, and as you can see, the state's type has changed to CG size in this case, and we're gonna say it's gonna be value dot translation. Okay, however much translation has been applied, apply that same size. All right. So what is going to happen is it's going to keep building upon. So offset is going to be adding as the user is dragging out the menu. We can actually we can update this offset value, and this way we can actually on ended we can get that value, and if we can say if the value dot translation dot width is less than negative of geoproxy dot size dot width times 0.4, that means 40%. If the translation width is less than 0.4, then what we want to do is we want to take the slider position and we want to set it 50 minus geoproxy dot size dot width. Okay, and otherwise we want to set the slider position to 0. So what this is saying is basically if so let me run this, and then you're gonna see. Okay, so so I'm running this, and if you notice, if I start okay, sorry, if I start dragging this out and let it go, it's actually gonna snap back, and right. So if I let it go, it actually snaps back, and if it's like, you know, it's like 0.4% or the width is negative of 40%, then it's gonna snap into the direction and create the slider position, open the slider basically completely. Now this is good, but it's not animating, so it's actually snapping. What we can do is we can simply add an animation, a spring animation to this, and that spring animation is going to give it a more slidey smooth uh, animation, or like, you know, drag. Now if you notice, because we are only applying offset on the X direction, we cannot move this view like, you know, like up or down. We can only move it in the horizontal direction, and this is how you can simply create your draggable menu. Now this view right here, you can add a tap gesture to actually open open this menu and close it. You can do that too, but this series is about drag gesture, so whatever we're going to be seeing is going to be related to the drag gesture. So once again, what we are doing is on the updating, whenever the drag is happening, we are actually capturing that inside our offset right here, so we can actually add that to the slider's current slider's position, and we check if the value, the ended value width is less than the 40% of the size of the geometry proxy's width. In that case, we actually snap it back. As you can see, there you go, we snap it back, right? But if it is more, then we actually set it to 0. So if user has dragged it just a bit, like, or like, you know, just a bit, right? Sorry, the opposite. Okay, if user has dragged just a bit, we want to actually let it close, and otherwise we want to let it go like this. Okay. Now, if you wanna the opposite behavior, basically if you want to change this, and if user drags out a little bit and you want to snap it back, then you can just change that negative to, like, just remove that negative of proxy, and you can say when user has dragged out about 40%, then open the view, otherwise open the menu, otherwise close it. Okay, so yeah, so this is your drag gesture based menu, and coming up next is where we're gonna talk about the minimum distance. All right, so let's talk about a minimum distance. So drag gesture comes with this parameter called minimum distance, which actually makes it possible for you to initiate the drag, um, the reception of drag location and stuff, or drag gesture being applied after certain distance has been dragged. Okay, so in other words, you can actually avoid the situation where you have like too many or like your user is trying to swipe out into the screen, and you are capturing that drag option or the gesture itself, and you can avoid that conflict by using this minimum distance. So we're gonna build out an example for minimum distance, and we're gonna see how it works. All right, so in this example, we're gonna use our gesture state once again. So let's go ahead and create a struct. Okay, and here what we're gonna do is first we're gonna create our gesture state, and this one is gonna be tracking the offset and default value, or the value that it's gonna snap back to is gonna be cg size dot 0. Now let's create the body for this example. We're gonna have a z stack, and inside the z stack we're gonna have a circle with stroke, and the color is gonna be orange. Line width is going to be 1, and frame is going to be 100 and center alignment. Okay, then we're gonna have an image, and this image is gonna be a system image arrow dot right dot circle. Font is gonna be large title. Foreground color is gonna be orange, and offset is going to be the offset that we have created. Now we're gonna attach our gesture into this, and I'm gonna call this one drag. Once again, we're gonna attach the drag gesture, and let me go ahead and put this in new line. Now we were talking about minimum distance, so let's go ahead and define that minimum distance parameter here. We're gonna call this it's a C float value, and we're gonna give it 100. Okay, and then we're gonna say updating, and we're gonna add the offset, so dollar offset, which is our gesture state. Gonna get the value state and transaction, which can be underscore because we are not using it. So we're gonna say offset, or basically the value here. We cannot update offset, remember. So we're gonna say value is equal to the value dot state is equal to value dot translation. Okay, and this state value is same as the offset. It's an indirect way of setting. Okay, and then we're gonna have the animation spring animation onto this. Now let's go ahead and give this example a try. So example 5. Okay, and I'm gonna resume, and let's go ahead and wait for it to build. And what we're gonna see is this circle with an image, and if I start dragging until it reaches 100 point, that's when it's gonna start basically the drag gesture is going to be applied. So if I drag a little bit and leave it, it's not going to have any effect on the drag state. As you can see, I'm dragging, but as soon as it goes beyond 100 points, that's when it starts to drag. Okay, so yeah, so that is what the minimum distance parameter does. Is basically defines that threshold on which basically the drag is going to start. All right, so now this was our drag minimum distance. So we're gonna all the learnings that we have gathered so far, we're gonna apply it to build a slightly complex example where basically this arrow right here is gonna point to the origin. So we're gonna move it and we're gonna snap it back, and the arrow is also gonna basically rotate according to where the origin is. Okay, so we're gonna build out that example next. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with our example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new struct, for example 6. Okay, and we are going to need a couple of state variables for this one. So okay, so we're going to need a state for angle, which is going to be of type angle. Initially the value is going to be 0, and we're going to have offset CG size, once again 0, and we're going to create the body. All right, in this we're going to have a Z stack. This Z stack is going to have a circle which is going to be filled with color dot orange, and it's going to be a frame for this with width of 20 points and height of 20 points. Okay, and let me go ahead and get the example 6 going. And I'm gonna press Command Option P to render. So there we go. This is our circle, and the circle is basically going to act as the origin point. So we're going to need the image now. So we're going to say system name, and we're going to have this arrow image. Let me zoom in a bit. Okay, we're going to define the foreground color to be maybe color dot red, and the font is going to be large title. Rotation effect. So we want to give it a rotation, and rotation is going to be computed, but we are capturing that rotation inside the angle value. So we're going to use that, and we're going to get the offset, which is going to be the offset value, offset state value. And for the gesture, we are going to use our drag gesture. Okay, and we're going to have minimum distance, and minimum distance this time is going to be 50. All right, and we also want coordinate space. So coordinate space is going to be local. Okay, and there is no closure block. It's on change. Right, on change is going to give us the value of the change. We're going to get the translation first. So we're going to say it's a value.translation. Okay, and then we're going to compute points. Now we're going to use the triangle's right angle formula to basically get the angle value out using 10. So let's first compute a point 1. So we're gonna know 2 points, and we're going to determine the angle between them. So we're going to say translation dot width. If it's equal to 0, then we're going to say the value is 0. Otherwise, we're going to give translation dot width. Okay, and there's going to be 0.2, which is going to be again double, and this is going to be translation dot height. All right. Next, we're gonna compute the angle, and this is where we're gonna apply the formula. So we're gonna check if the 0.1 is less than 0. Okay, if it is true, then we're gonna say a tan value computed double 0.2 divided by 0.1. Okay, and if the value of 0.1 is greater than 0, we actually fall into this S, like else side of this ternary operator. So we're going to say A10 value, this time double, once again 0.2 divided by 0.1, but we are also going to subtract double dot pi value from that. Right, and this is basically going to give us the angle. So we're going to take the angle that we have created at the top, and we're going to assign this. So I'll say internal, maybe I'll say this A for now. Okay, all right, that's awesome. And we're gonna set the offset, and the offset is gonna be value dot translation. Okay, now we're gonna have on ended and on ended. What we're gonna do is we're gonna set our angle to be 0. So we're gonna actually move our set the arrow direction to be 0, and then we wanna also move the arrow back to the center. So we're gonna say offset. It's gonna be 0 as well. Okay, and this angle value is basically it's gonna be the angle, because what we are computing is double, so we can actually get the radians, and we can supply that angle that we have computed in radian and get the angle out. Okay, and there's going to be animation. So animation, and this animation is going to be spring animation. There we go. Okay, so let me go ahead and resume, and what we're going to do is we are going to play this, and all right, let's see. So there we go. As you can see, our arrow is always pointing at the origin, right? And if we let it go, it's gonna go back into the origin. So once again, when you move at least 50 point of distance, it actually goes there. And as you can see, I'll actually let it go, and it's gonna go back, snap back to the origin. Okay, so this was just one example. You can find definitely better examples and use cases in your code. Yeah, so this is it for this example, and let's continue on our exploration for drag. All right, so in this section, we're gonna create a slider using drag gesture. So range slider using drag gesture. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually build it as a control. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is gonna make some room here, and we're gonna create a struct, and we're gonna call this dt range slider. Okay, and this is gonna be conforming to the view. And we're going to need a couple of binding properties for defining minimum value and maximum value for the slider. So we're going to say binding min value, min-max value. Okay, both of them are going to be of float type. Now we need slider width. Okay, so we're going to say a state variable and gonna have slider width. Right, this is private var slider width cg float. We're gonna need the background colors, and by the way, all these properties are gonna be configurable. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually create them, and let me actually. So let's see. I think we should be able to map these. Okay, so right. So let's do this. Let's not define them as private. Okay, right. Okay, so continuing on, we need the background color for the track and a selected color for the track. So we are going to create two more state properties. Background track color dot green maybe, and we're gonna set the opacity to 0.3, and there's gonna be another one for selected track color dot orange. Opacity is gonna be, let's try 2.5. Okay, or let's not define the opacity for now. We'll see. We'll come back and adjust these. Okay, we're gonna have a state variable for the globe color. Okay. And you're gonna see, like, where we are applying these. Globe background color. Okay, and we're gonna have a min-max value. Okay, so min-max value color. Okay, now it's time to write the body. What we're going to do is we are going to have a VStack first, right? And inside this VStack, we are going to have a slider. Okay, so first let's have an H stack, and inside this H stack, we're gonna show the values. So the text. So we're gonna have text and start 0. And by the way, you can always parameterize these to define the minimum and maximum values. In my case, I'm just gonna keep it as static. Okay, and width is going to be 30 points, height 30 points, and alignment is going to be leading. Foreground color is going to be globe min-max value color. Okay, and then we're going to have a spacer. All right, and after that we're going to have another text of 100. Like that's gonna basically the 100% or 100 value. Okay, whatever that 100 could be, is could be percent or whatever you're trying to measure. -18 by 20. Okay, let's give it a frame. So let's see, there's a frame right there. Actually get the same frame. The only thing that's going to change is going to be trailing. And for the foreground color is going to be same globe min-max value color. Okay, All right, so that is good. Like, we have our minimum slider built. Um, let's go ahead and create our example, and then we're gonna build the rest of the slider out. Okay, so we're gonna have a struct example 7. Okay, conforming to view, and we're gonna need state for min value. So again, it's gonna be float 0.0, and state private for max value. Load up of UI screen dot main dot bounce dot width -50 to leave some room for padding. Okay, then we're gonna have our body, and inside this body we're gonna have a vstack with text range slider, I'll say, and we're gonna have dt range slider. Okay, now dt range slider takes all these values. We're gonna actually start with the minimum value, so we're gonna say this one is gonna be the min value, and this one is gonna be the max value. All right, and what we can do is, let me properly align this. We are even gonna have the slider width. So slider width, we're gonna say max value is the width of the slider. Okay, and for the global min max color, let's give it a black color for now. All right, and now what we can do is we are going to pick that. So example 7. And what we're going to do is, this is complaining that this is not okay. All right, so let me show you what I did. So there is a keyboard shortcut whenever you have this kind of, like, error that has fix on it. What you can do, and this can be basically done on the selected text, or for the entire file or project. Okay, the way it works is you simply select the item that you want to fix, and you press command option control F. Okay, so it's going to basically apply that fix. Okay, so that's just a small trick that I learned, so just wanted to share that. Command option P to resume, and there you go. So this is our range slider right now. Okay, this is what it looks like. Okay, so we are I'm gonna go ahead and use. Okay, perfect. Now let's continue to our slider. So we're gonna first build out the track, right? So okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a z stack. All right, and inside this z stack, let's define the alignment. Alignment is gonna be the alignment object. Okay, we're gonna create that for horizontal. We're gonna say here's leading, and vertical is gonna be center. Okay, and then we're gonna have a capsule. All right, this capsule is gonna have fill with the background track color. The background track color. As you can see, our capsule is like really big. So we are going to actually give this a frame, and this frame is gonna have, of course, width, which is gonna be CG float value, and this is basically gonna be slider width plus 10 points, okay, and 20 points for the height. Gonna leave our alignment default, and there you have your yeah, there you have your slider track. Okay, now we need a selected track, so we're gonna create another capsule here, and we're gonna say the fill is gonna be selected track color. Okay, and let's give it a frame, and this frame is gonna be X. Uh, yeah, frame is gonna be width, and the width is gonna be CG float value. Okay, and it's gonna be the max value. Okay, and what we're going to do is we want to subtract the min value from this. Okay, height is going to be 20, and alignment is going to be default. All right, and we also want offset in X direction. Basically, this offset is going to be to the minimum value, so CG float, and this is the min value. All right. Okay, so that's our selected track. Now, what we want is a Z stack again. Now, this Z stack is going to be the globe, the tracker that you're gonna move, right? So we're gonna have a rounded rectangle, okay, with corner radius of 10 points. Fill color is gonna be the globe color, okay, and frame is going to be width 40 and height 40. So I'm going to say 40 right now. Okay. Wait, 40. Okay. Perfect. Alignment is going to be default. That is center. And then we are going to add a background. Okay. So background is going to be a rounded rectangle, corner radius 10 points. We're going to create a stroke for globe background color with line width of 2 points. Okay, we're gonna have an offset, and offset is gonna be CG float of min value. All right, then we're gonna apply the gesture to this, and we're gonna add our drag gesture here, and this drag gesture is gonna have on change, and let's see, this on change is going to have going to give us the value. All right, and this value is basically going to allow us to move the tracker, or like the rectangle handle basically. Okay, so we're gonna say if value, so we're gonna make sure, like, its location is only moving in the X direction first of all. So we're gonna say X greater than 8, and value dot location dot X is less than equal to self dot slider width, and value dot location dot X is less than CG float of max value minus 30. Okay, so if this is the case, we're gonna say min value is equal to float of value dot location dot X minus 8. All right, okay, so that's going to basically define that's going to define our direction uh, for the slider, right? And so let's go ahead and try it out. So there you go. As you can see, our slider is moving only in this direction, and if you notice, is it's not moving in any other directions. Okay, all right. So now we are going to basically add a text on this. So see where our rectangle ends. So we're going to have a text here, and this text is going to be, let's convert, let's create a string with format. Okay, and we're going to have %.0f. Okay, to show that we don't want any decimal value for the double value that we're going to provide. Okay, next we're going to have cg float value, which is going to be computed by dividing minimum value with the slider width. Okay, and we want to basically multiply this with 100. Okay, because this is going to be a fraction. Okay, and we're going to have offset, right? And this offset is going to go in the x direction, cg float. So min value. Okay, and for the multi-line, so multi-line text alignment, the value is going to be center. Okay, it's going to be frame with width of 30 points, height of 30 points, and we don't need the alignment. Foreground color is going to be globe min max color. Okay, all right. So let's see. Okay, so we need to actually surround this with cg float, and okay, so we're gonna convert the value to cg float. Okay, there we go, and there you have it. You have your value showing up, and as you can see, our slider is moving, and the value is updating. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and create our next handle. So let's see, where is our stack ending? Right there. So we're going to create another stack right here. Okay, and this is going to be the maximum value handle. So we're going to have a rounded rectangle. Once again, corner radius 10. Okay, and we're going to have a fill. This is going to be the glow color. Frame is going to be within height of 40 points. Okay, and the background is going to be a rounded rectangle with corner radius of 10 points, and we're going to create a stroke around this. Background color, line width, it's going to be 2. Okay, and let's add the offset. So offset is going to be in the x direction for the cg float value. We're going to convert that, and we're going to say max value minus 18. Okay, so we're going to move our handle on the other side. All right, and we're gonna apply the gesture on it. Now this gesture is gonna be the drag gesture once again. So drag gesture. Okay, and we're gonna have on changed value. Okay, and now we're gonna compute once again. So if the value dot location dot x is x minus 8 is less than equal to slider width and value dot location dot x is greater than cg float of min value plus 50, right? Because that's the size. So we want to actually keep the distance between those two, right? We don't want them to overlap. So in that case, if those conditions become true, then we're gonna say value dot location dot x minus 8. Okay, so that's gonna be our next slider. So if you notice, our slider goes up until overlapping point, right? So if I go here, it's not gonna go across um, the max value slider or min value slider, right? Okay, and this value you can actually set it to 40. Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, awesome. So let's see. What we need to do is we need to have a text. So I'm gonna actually simply copy this guy right here, and I'm gonna paste it. And the value is gonna be max value. Okay. Um, yeah. So max value. Okay, for the offset of minus 18. Okay, just to give it a little bit of padding, and within height and everything else is gonna stay the same. Okay, let's take a look. Perfect. Okay. I think I'm gonna change this to 50, and yeah. Okay, I'm just computing like how much. That's perfect. Yeah, that's gonna bring it to center. Okay. All right. So this is basically our range slider. What we're going to do is we are also going to set some padding. Okay, so we're gonna set the padding. So let me collapse these, and I'm gonna collapse the yeah, there we go. So we're gonna add some padding here. All right, awesome. So that actually gives some breathing room between the label and the value. Okay, so there we go. So this is it. This is our slider that we have created using simple components inside the SwiftUI. All right. Next up, we are going to create that vertical slider. That's going to be another custom control that we're going to see how we can build out using drag gesture recognizer. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we are going to build out our next example. And in this example, we're going to build a vertical slider. So let me go ahead and scroll all the way to the up, and we're going to create our new struct, example 8. Okay. All right. We're going to need some state variables. So let's go ahead and create those. Max height. I'm going to say that value is going to be 200. Slider progress, 0, state, private. And we're also going to have a variable if you want to hold the label. Okay, so we're going to say label height is CG float 15. Okay. All right. Now we're gonna have our body property, and what we're gonna do is I will actually mark example 8 here. So we can start loading that. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna have a stack. Inside that v stack, we're gonna have a z stack with the alignment as bottom. Okay, and then we're gonna have a rectangle which is gonna be filled with color dot black dot opacity 0.3. All right, okay. Let me go ahead and resume the canvas. There we go. So this is our rectangle. Okay, we're gonna have another rectangle. Okay, and this rectangle is once again gonna have fill color dot white. Frame is gonna be the height, and the height we're gonna give is the slider height. All right. Okay. Now let's, because this is taking over the entire screen, so let's give it a frame. And the frame we're gonna have width of 70. Okay. Height is max height, right? And alignment we can leave it as default. Let's give this a corner radius of 40 points. Okay, we're gonna give it shadow and a shadow overload. I'm gonna use the other shadow overload, this one right here, and we're gonna say color dot black dot opacity 0.2. Radius is gonna be 5. X and Y are gonna be 2 and 2, and I'm gonna copy this and paste it. And I'm gonna say this one is gonna be white 0.2 and negative and negative value. What this is going to do is this is going to drop 2 shadows. So when our rectangle is filled with white color, it's going to leave that shadow. Okay, so you're going to see it in a minute. Okay. Now we need a drag gesture, right? So the drag gesture, okay, and this drag gesture is going to have on change event, like always. And here we're gonna first get the translation. Slider height, we're gonna compute that. We're gonna say negative of translation dot height plus current slider value. So whatever current slider value is, we get the translation height. So now we are actually moving it upward. So that's why we're gonna make it negative value. Okay, so let's see as you see right there, that's what we are actually doing. And if you notice, our shadow is coming into an effect. Even though we have white on white, we can still see our control. Okay, now what we want is we also want the slider height to be set to the maximum height. So we're gonna say slider height is equal to, first we're gonna say if the slider height is greater than max height, right? Then we're gonna set our slider height to the max height. Otherwise, we're gonna set it to the slider height. So basically, when it's moving, it doesn't go all the way up, like somewhere here. Whenever we are moving it, it should actually end it at the top where the maximum value of the slider is, right? Okay. Let's see. So we're gonna have a slider height. One more thing we're gonna adjust in this, and this is basically for the bottom. If the slider height is greater than equal to 0, right? then we want to actually set the slider height. If that is not the case, we want to set the slider height minimum to 0. Okay, and we want to actually compute the progress. So slider height divided by maximum height, max height. Okay, and we're gonna say slider progress is equal to progress less than, if it's less than equal to 1.0, then we're gonna say progress, otherwise we're gonna say 1. All right, so that's our on change. Then we're gonna have on ended. It's gonna give us a value as well. We're gonna simply say slider height, and we're gonna check first the slider height is greater than the max height. If that is the case, we're going to set it to the maximum height, otherwise we're going to say slider height. Okay, and slider height is equal to slider height greater than equal to 0. So this is basically just making sure our slider falls within the bounds, slider height and 0. Okay, the current slider value, we're going to set it to the slider. Okay, all right, so that is our drag slider, as you can see, right? And as you notice, if I leave it and I start dragging again, it's gonna pick up where it left, right? Okay, so that is our basic slider right there. So if you just want the slider, you can stop right here, but we want something, we want a little bit more than this. We want to have an overlay. So I'm gonna create an overlay. Okay, and this overlay is gonna be an image. All right, and I'm gonna say it's gonna be a system image. So you're gonna first check the height. So I'm gonna say slider height divided by max height. Okay, so slider height divided by max height is greater than 0.5, so it's gone beyond 50%. Then we want to show sun dot max dot fill. Okay, otherwise show sun dot min dot fill. Okay, and I'm gonna give it a font large title. I'm gonna give it a padding of bottom 20 and a foreground color dot black dot opacity 0.5. Animation, we're gonna give dot ease in, and we also want to set the alignment property for our overlay at the bottom. Okay, so there we go. This is our slider, and if you notice, we have our view changing depending upon where the slider is, right? Yeah, so this is our slider. Now I created a label height because I want to show the label, but I think this is a little bit better. So I'm going to just remove that, and I'm going to resume building. So instead of image, you can always overlay a label on it, but I actually like the image better. Okay, all right, so yeah, so this is it about the drag gestures. We actually learned a whole bunch. You created a couple of controls yourself, and you learned, like, all of the things there is in the drag gesture recognizer within SwiftUI. So hope you like the video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you